Have you ever heard about maintenance being performed during flight? No, right? Because it's not permitted. Well, in today's story, somebody did perform maintenance during flight. And we are going to talk about it with Bret in another episode of Storytime with Bret. Hi everyone, I'm Annalisa from C.A.C. Global Solutions. We are an aircraft management and aviation training company. Welcome to our YouTube channel. And today we are going to discuss a very interesting story that Bret experienced some time ago, a long time ago, about someone performing maintenance during a flight. Okay, Bret, so today this story is quite interesting and definitely unusual. So would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, so today's story is about a pilot that was also an aircraft maintenance engineer. And he used to fly a Boeing aircraft, a Boeing 727. He had a lot of really good insight when troubleshooting problems with the aircraft and such, but he took it just a little too far one day. He was en route in flight with the aircraft, and he had a problem with one of the engine indications on the number 2 engine. He had N2 erroneous indication, or what he felt was erroneous. So being the clever aircraft maintenance engineer that he was, he decided to swap instrument indicators while in flight. So he did exactly that. He pulled out his screwdriver and he removed one of the engine indication instruments, the N1 N2 indicator, and proceeded to swap it from number 2 engine to number 1 to see if in fact the discrepancy moved over to the other engine. And then he installed them both and continued on his way. Where we run into a few issues with this are, one, of course, he could have easily introduced a safety problem with the aircraft. But beyond that,
well, just 1 second. So he swapped the instruments, and the error remained, right?
The error remained on number 2 engine, yes.
Okay. So what happened when he came back with the aircraft?
Well, he came back and he told us what he had done, and proceeded also to tell us what he felt the problem was, because he did the troubleshooting on it, which in some respects is helpful, and other respects it's a hindrance, but or can be a hindrance. So in this particular instance, he was right in what the problem was. He said because he had swapped the instruments and the problem remained on the number 2 engine, that it was the engine indicator transmitter unit that had failed. And in fact, yeah, we did our own troubleshooting, and that's what it was, and we changed it. That fixed the problem. So problem found, problems sorted out, problem solved. Except that's not how you do things, obviously, right? So
yeah,
a number of issues that came to light over this. So the first problem is you don't perform maintenance on an aircraft while it's in flight, at least not of that nature, certainly. There are, in today's modern aircraft, there are troubleshooting maintenance computers that will help you diagnose problems, but certainly not with something like that. So that's the first part, is you don't go taking the aircraft apart and putting it back together. So another part is the engineer was not type rated on the aircraft, so legally, he wasn't entitled to do that anyways. Furthermore, with the legal aspect, he didn't have aircraft certification authority to do the work. This was a commercially operated aircraft that was operated for a courier company, and they hadn't authorized him as an AME to do any work on the aircraft, never mind in flight. And then, of course, when he got back, he told us all about what he had done. But of course, again, there were no log entries as to any discrepancy or any troubleshooting activity that had taken place. So
Yeah,
you cut
so
that.
I would like to summarize for a moment, because this is a lot to take in, and it's very, very unusual. I mean, I never ever heard about someone performing maintenance in flight. So this pilot was a pilot for a 727, and he also had an aircraft maintenance engineer license. And during his duty as a pilot, so he discovered an issue on the N2 indicator, and he decided to swap N2 indicator on engine 2 to engine 1 to see if the problem remained, and actually the problem remained. So this guy came back to the maintenance facility of the operator and point out this problem. So now I'm curious, was anyone shocked by the fact that this guy performed maintenance in flight? Because I have never heard about it. I mean, I would have gone like...
Yeah, I mean, yes, we were shocked. Everybody was shocked. Having said that, he, being an aircraft maintenance engineer, it had its pluses and its minuses, because he used to come home with some really good troubleshooting, like I switched this and this happened and that happened, and I eliminated this because of that, and it, in a lot of ways it was really useful information. But in other instances, he'd come back and having done all of his own personal troubleshooting, and then tell you what he had done and what he thought it was. And it tended also to sidetrack you from starting from the beginning and troubleshooting the problem yourself, right? So
yeah, for sure, because that is already a prepackaged notion that he gave to you. Okay, this is the problem, but you actually don't know if that actually is the problem. So you may go down a road that may not be applicable to the problem. I like to point out also another aspect that you mentioned. So even if you have an aircraft maintenance engineer license, when you work for a company as an aircraft maintenance engineer, the company has to authorize you to do certain work. So let's say that you are qualified because of your license to do A, B, C, D. Then the company also have to authorize you to do A, B, C, D, because sometimes it might be that your company is going to say, no, okay, you can do only A, B, you can do C, D, right? So this is an important aspect that maybe some people never heard of it, or maybe they're not very familiar with it.
Oh, for sure. And that's exactly it. Particularly if you're in a private aircraft environment, the rules are obviously different, but certainly within a commercial operator environment, basically under the ICAO rules and beyond that, every state has the same rules, or they adopt the same rules. For commercial aircraft, they must be maintained by an aircraft maintenance organization. And unless you're authorized on behalf of that organization, the aircraft is not being maintained by a maintenance organization. So yeah, that's definitely part of it. But, I mean, starting right from the beginning, the safety aspect. So one, you're only supposed to install a known good working product, and that usually comes with a serviceable tag or what have you. To take an aircraft part off that has failed and then install it in another location, technically, I know it's done all the time for troubleshooting, but technically you're installing what you believe to be a known unserviceable part onto an aircraft, which is contrary to any rules. So, there are, again, within the confines of a maintenance organization, there's a structure for managing that. And it might mean isolating the suspected defective part for a while until it's determined whether the replacement part fixed the problem or not. I mean, there are different avenues you can take with this, but, and the logic behind it is whatever took out that indicator, and maybe the indicator just over time, it was tired and it failed, but perhaps another component in the system actually was defective and it took out the instrument. Now, by taking that number one instrument, putting it in the number two position, if that were in fact the case, you're going to take out that instrument too. Now you're down to one engine out of three with an N2 indication. So, there are all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't be doing things like this. So that's a safety issue.
Yeah, that's
But
a very good point. I like that because, like you said, we have seen multiple times where an instrument is not working and you swap it.
right,
Like you said, it's not really the right procedure, but we have seen that many times. But you are completely right. By doing that, there might be something in this system over here that now is going to screw up
right,
the other instrument. And in this particular case, you are also in flight, and the other aspect that come to mind is the fact that you are the pilot. You are it's a human factor aspect, that you are the pilot. You are flying the machine, but now your attention is away from flying the machine, doing this maintenance action that you shouldn't be doing anyways.
right.
So you are introducing a lot of issues that, a lot of things that can go wrong. There are so much to say about this story, but we are trying to highlight the main point. Obviously, the first one is that you don't perform maintenance in flight. Going further to with this conversation, you also mentioned the fact that this pilot came back to your team and report the defect. But the defect was not reported on a logbook. So basically now it was on you and your team to clarify in the logbook what happened. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So there was no log entry as to the part even being defective, never mind the troubleshooting that was accomplished, the swapping of the parts. And so, for that, it puts the maintenance team in a difficult position, because now I've done this before. You're having to make entries for something that you had no involvement in. I mean, a defect is supposed to be entered in the logbook by the person that discovers the defect. So right there, that was the pilot's responsibilities. But he he basically steps away from the aircraft and washes his hands from it. In the meantime, he may have been, the aircraft may have encountered additional faults because of what he did, but there's no record of what he did, right? So. And I could understand from his perspective why he wouldn't make an entry, because he'd be incriminating himself. So, but nonetheless, I mean, in the name of safety, in the name of doing things right, there should have been a logbook entry, and then we could have responded to it. In the absence of that, we had to give our account of what had happened and what we did to rectify the situation, and we did that, and it all worked out. But it's not a situation that anybody should have ever been put in. And beyond that, of course, our quality assurance department got involved in it, and management got involved in it, and there's all kinds of issues. I mean, it was clear from the start it just shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and under also a technical records point of view. So now you also have to rectify that, because he swapped a serial number and the technical records are saying something else. So you have to take care of that. And also the thing that we talked about a lot in another episodes is the importance of reporting defects, and not only just tell things to the first mechanic that you see in the hangar, because, well, first of all, it's the regulation, and second, we need a real account of what happens, and not the perception or the opinion of what happened of someone that heard the story from you, right?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously entering a defect in the logbook, like from a maintenance perspective, if I was only going to enter in the logbook what I did, my entry would have been that I replaced the instrument. But then the question could be asked, well, why was the instrument replaced? Well, I mean, I knew why it had to be replaced, but really it should have been the pilot that entered it. And I mean, he discovered it. If he wanted to take some appropriate troubleshooting, I mean, that's always well appreciated to make comments in the logbook along with the discrepancy, but that's where it needs to stop. I mean,
Yeah.
truth is, this was, I'm almost certain, it was a deferrable defect that he could have pulled out the MEL and just wrote it off and let us deal with it back at home base.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Yeah, and this is something that we talked about too in one of our webinars and in other episode. The fact that there is the tendency to not use the minimum equipment list, and I never understood why. It's there for a reason. It's a very useful tool, in cases like that, right? Because between using an MEL and swapping components in flight, well, I guess the MEL is the right way to go. So you mentioned the quality assurance system being involved. So this happened way before, long time ago, way before the SMS and stuff like that. But quality assurance has been around for a long time. So would you like to comment on what, since you also have experience as a quality assurance person, what would you do in a case like this?
Well, definitely, quality assurance in just about every organization I've ever seen, regardless under what register you're operating, quality assurance manager usually has a line of communication directly to the accountable manager. And that would be an example of where that communication line is exercised, because this isn't something that you just write up in a finding and hand it over to the ops manager to deal with. Yes, that does happen. You write the finding, the ops manager gets it, and he has to deal with it. But this is also a situation where the pilot, yes, today it was an engine indicator, tomorrow what else is it, right? So this had to be stopped immediately, and of course it went to the accountable manager.
Okay, perfect. You don't know exactly what happened, eh?
No, well, I know that there were discussions, and he was told, you don't do that again. And that's pretty much where it stopped. But sometimes that's all it takes, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so well, was a very, very interesting one for me, particularly because I never heard about that. I didn't even know there was really someone with the courage to do that, actually. But that was really, really a very, very interesting one. For those of you who are following us and you like this kind of content, please make sure to subscribe and to like the video and to share it, and to follow us in all our other ventures that we have going on. You can go to CACglobalsolutions.com to know more about us, and you can follow our podcast Aviation Perspective with the C.A.C. We already had a number of very good episodes, so you can go on our website and check it out, or go on our YouTube channel. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So please leave a comment, like and share, and thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Bye. Thanks.